There must be a point in someone's social awareness development where you're right on the cusp of being able to follow the rules, but you don't quite know how yet. So like, I think there's a point where, okay, I'm really aware that I'm messing something up socially and I feel embarrassed about it, but I don't have enough social intelligence to like know how to fix it or how to not cause these blunders. Right. So I bet that's kind of like the sweet spot for feeling a lot of social embarrassment.
Yes.
So you'd rather be like on the lower end or on the much higher end. I want to either be smart enough to avoid the social faux pas, or I want to have so little awareness that I don't even know I'm committing them, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah.
I think we're
like
right
you
at
in
the
middle
peak
school.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just totally blissfully unaware.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, what a life.
Right? Kind of nice.
Yeah.
They said that we'd grow out of it. Well, the joke's on them, that's just our brains. We're eccentric, loud, and stubborn, and most of our clothing is covered in stains. It's not a deficit of attention, there's just too much to think about. So if executive dysfunction becomes a little too much, if you forgot why you came in this room, or you're hypersensitive to touch, then put on your seamless socks and come join our little flock. Bitches stimming together, we're weirds of a feather, weirds of a feather.
Too hot to sip, and I'm still fogging.
Too hot to handle.
Ooh, that was it. Season 1 was such a great show.
Right?
I don't really watch.
Suck.
I don't watch reality TV, but I watched that because it had like a good message. So fun. Right?
What was the message? Put off your horniness for the betterment of the group.
No, it's.
Don't be so lustful.
It was like learning to understand someone from the inside instead of just based on looks and lust.
Yeah.
I think lust is fine.
I think they were trying to do something that's never going to happen with that demographic of people because they need like deep intervention.
Oh, for sure.
And like,
but it's fun to see them try.
Oh, yeah, it is very fun. The newer ones, I stopped after like season 3 with that show because reality shows just become so fucking scripted and everyone who goes on to it wants to be on the reality show.
Yeah.
So I feel like the first 2 seasons of a reality show are the best.
Yeah, I don't think I didn't watch the second one. I just watched the first and I was like, that's good, but that's enough.
Yeah, you got the gist.
Yeah.
All right, should we get into this?
Yeah.
All right. Welcome to Weirds of a Feather, an AuDHD-Adjacent podcast.
Yeah.
I'm your host, Grace Bure.
And I'm your host, Kristen Stanhope.
Here we go.
And here we are.
All right. Despite the sunshine being out right now, it's surprisingly cold in this basement.
Yeah.
How would you like to warm up with a warm-up question?
I would love to warm. I'd love to get warm.
Right? A little
Yeah.
toasty? All right. This one is, I was thinking about you specifically.
Me.
And I think I know your answer. How long do you think it would take you to notice someone following you?
A real fucking long time.
Like weeks.
They've gonna,
months maybe.
And it would be just like my car buddy system. I'd be like, oh, that's just my friend. He's always behind me.
Yeah,
you
he's
know?
just always
now we're
there.
like together.
Yeah. We must work
We're like
and live
a unit.
Yeah, in the same place.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. It would never dawn on me. It would take forever for me to realize that someone's actually following me.
I know it would. And that's why I came up with this question. Because I'm like, I wonder how long Kristen could be followed before she would start to catch on.
It would take forever. Yeah. Until like knife at throat being murdered. I'd be like, oh my God, have you been there the whole time?
That's what you've been doing back there.
I look familiar.
Yeah. Oh, you're the guy who follows me.
Yeah, I get it.
Oh.
All right. Well, here I go. I'm dying.
Shoot.
Now.
Yeah. Shoot. Well,
darn it.
Yeah.
Out on. Yeah. What about you? Would you like immediately notice?
I think I would notice pretty quickly. I feel like I'm pretty aware to the point of paranoia sometimes.
Yeah, I think
who's
you would
around
notice.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like even when I'm not being followed, like if a car takes one of the same turns as me, I'm like, they're following me.
See, I'm like, now we're friends.
Why are you so desperate for friendship?
I got a car buddy. As long as we're betwixt cars.
Yes. Real life, you don't.
Yeah, I've got enough. No.
Yeah.
I'm always open to new friends.
I'm not. Don't follow me. Stop following me. If you live nearby me, don't. Stop. Go home a different way. Wait a little bit. I feel like I'm like overly paranoid and no one's following me.
No.
No.
Why would they?
So if you're going to stalk one of us, pick Kristen because it'll take her a lot
become
longer.
friends. Yeah. If one of us is going to get stalked, I'm your girl.
Yeah. If we had to do like maybe one episode, we should do those superlatives of like most likely.
Oh, yeah.
Yours would be like most likely to befriend her stalker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like this
We're
is
pals.
Craig.
Yeah. He loves me a lot.
He likes me a lot. So now we're best friends.
Yeah.
He says he wants to go everywhere with me. And he always is at my window.
Yeah. And it's great because I'm never lonely. All right.
Yeah.
Listeners out there, let us know how long you think it would take you to notice someone following you, right?
That's a great question.
Because I feel like it's either like I would notice immediately or it's like you could follow me for a year and I'd never catch on.
Yeah. If it was a male stalker, I think you would notice right away.
Yeah.
If it was a female stalker, you would be a me situation.
Yeah, you're right. I might be like, oh, friend.
This is Sarah.
Yeah. She just trails
We
me
love
wherever
her.
I go. Yeah.
She's always there.
Yeah, I guess that's true. For men, I'm like on the lookout for anyone being
because it's
creeped.
ingrained in our blood.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's self-protection, survival instinct. But yeah, I guess a woman could follow me for longer and I might not catch on right away.
Yeah.
So I guess dress like an old woman if you're going to stalk me. And for Kristen, just do whatever.
Yeah. I won't notice.
She won't pick up.
And if I do, we're about to be friends.
Yeah, she's not even going to be upset. She'll be like, you can walk next to me. You don't have to walk behind me.
Yeah. Let's hold hands. No, I hate it.
No.
I hate physical contact, but we can pretend.
Yeah. Stalk her from a distance. All right. Should we get into those little accomplishments? Are you warm?
Yeah, I'm warm.
Okay.
I'm warm now.
All right. I'm feeling good. Now that we've put it out there.
Yeah.
Just like when I announced very early on in this podcast that someone stole my identity and I wasn't really able to fix the situation. I feel like we've just revealed another weak spot. In that
one of many.
Yeah. That someone could follow you and you wouldn't notice.
I wouldn't notice.
Just making ourselves vulnerable.
I guess so, but if we don't notice, then it won't bother us, right?
True.
Yeah.
So. Schrodinger's stalker.
Yeah.
All right. Let's do those little accomplishments.
Yeah.
Little accomplishments, but big in our hearts. Kristen,
Ish.
what did you accomplish?
It's an accomplishment and a quirk all in one.
Great.
It's a 2-for-1.
2-for.
I finally, because it is spring now in Maine, I've planted all my seeds and I spent like 2 to 3 hours like planting the seeds, labeling the things, lining them up. I put them in like a little, because we're in Maine, so it's still cold. You can't plant anything into the ground until after Mother's Day is the golden rule. Although with climate change, hey,
that could change. Yep.
The summers are getting longer.
Isn't that nice?
Yep.
Yeah.
So I started that because my goal is to plant something. Last year we had a successful garden-ish. And it was very successful. We had lots of stuff. But we got mostly seedlings because I just like didn't have the capacity to grow things from seeds. But seedlings are expensive.
Yeah.
So I was like, this year we're growing things from seeds. And I have all these seeds. So many. Because some were a gift and some I bought. And so there's a ton. It will last me like many, many years.
Great.
But I got to use them, right? So I got all these seeds. I planted them out. I labeled everything. I bought special seedling dirt.
Nice.
I hooked up a grow light so they can grow. And then I like have this thing and it's like wrapped in plastic wrap so to keep the humidity in. I've got a system.
Gosh.
And then I went to water them. And the ink I used on all the labels is not waterproof. So
classic.
I have about 60 seeds. And I don't know what I planted.
Well, it'll be a fun surprise when
but
they
that's the
start to
thing.
come up.
Some are climbing and some are like bok choy, things that are not climbing.
Well, that was a bad mistake.
Yeah. So now Christopher's like, we can just figure it out because you know what you planted, right? I'm like, in theory, I have an idea.
The information is in there somewhere.
I'm like, but I don't know. And things are starting to sprout. And I'm like, great. Cool. Wish I knew what it was.
Yeah, what a fun Christmas.
So I'm fucked.
You are fucked.
Yeah.
I can't believe you did that.
I know.
What was your plan?
I labeled everything. I just didn't even think about the ink that I used because I just got like a little pen.
You didn't use like a permanent marker?
I couldn't find one. I found them now. And one of my students, because she was laughing at me from this, so she actually on her last day bought me little labels with like a special waterproof pen.
Oh, that was
I
nice.
know, isn't that so nice and useful?
A little late, but
I know. Well, yeah. So
next season,
I'll take a little video of my like mystery garden here. So I think there's
people might be able to help you identify like what the little sprouts are.
Yeah, I have like there's certain things that I know are like either pumpkins or zucchinis or cucumbers. But I want to trellis the cucumbers, but I don't want to trellis the zucchinis or pumpkins.
Yeah.
Because it will tear down my trellis.
Oh.
So.
Sounds like a problem.
I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm so quirky.
You'll figure it out. You are so quirky. That is a good quirk.
Yeah.
It's an accomplishment.
No. I'm really proud of myself for doing the seeds. And now I'm like, oh, shit. So. Oh, man.
You know what? You'll get there.
We'll get there.
Yeah.
One day.
Yeah. You'll find out what they are, and then you learned a lesson for next season. So, yeah. Now you know.
Grace, what did you accomplish?
I hung up new string lights in my office.
Hey! That office changes every time I come down to see it.
It always does. That's my goal, is to change it every time you come down. Yeah, I had just like Christmas tree shop Christmas lights up in my
There's nothing wrong
room.
with Christmas tree shop.
There is a lot wrong with Christmas tree shop because they burned out really fast. And now Christmas tree shop is out of business.
They are.
Unfortunately.
Because it's just like tchotchkes.
It's just crap. Yeah. Just kind of
It's just kind of like straight up junk.
Yeah.
Do you want expired sunscreen? Go to Christmas tree shop.
We got a place for you.
Yeah.
Not anymore. So I had just their cheapo string lights up in my office, and like strand by strand, they've burned out to the point where I think I only had one working strand, and then the rest of them were still strung up, but just all burned out. But, you have to plug in the whole thing because they're all connected. It was like the middle strand wasn't burned out. Yeah.
Of course.
And it would just annoy me every time I would go in my office, and I'd be like, this just looks junky and bad. I love twinkle lights. They are very important to me and my well-being.
Yeah. Are the ones we have in the pod loft? Are these Christmas tree shop?
I think these are a different brand, which is why they've lasted.
These look like a Home Depot special.
Yeah, these ones are more solid.
The Christmas tree look at that. The wiring, it looks legit.
Yeah, that's a good wiring. The Christmas tree shop ones were like $6 for a strand. So
probably for a reason.
There's a reason why they are so cheap.
Yeah.
So no, I got some new ones, and I finally.
Also, you're an adult now. You can have adult twinkle lights.
I'm allowed.
Yeah, you're allowed.
I don't
splurge
need to
if
buy.
It brings you joy. Go for it. And
they really weren't. I think I bought a new long strand for like $20, and they're LED. And so they'll hopefully last a lot longer. But I finally took the old ones down, threw them away, and put up the new ones. And I feel like a new woman. My office feels.
I'm excited.
Bright
I can't believe I haven't seen it. I'm always peeking at that office.
I know.
I gotta go. Let's go right now. No, let's not.
So you cue the music. No, I'll show you after. But I also retouched the paint because I think I talked about it before, where I painted the walls and didn't tape off the ceiling. And then the ceiling kind of got a bunch of pink paint on it.
Okay, Christopher.
And then it really bothered me every time I go in there. I finally fixed it.
Oh, I'm proud of you.
Because it's one of those just fucking annoying things.
I like to do the trim work.
I actually don't mind it.
I like the trim work. I like the prep.
Yep.
I like this taping. The big walls I'm actually quite bad at. So
I think for a while there, I was peer pressured by Ian because he was like not a taper. And he always seemed to think that we could just do it without the tape. We can't. No. And we never will.
No.
And we can't. And we
should always tape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we had to learn that lesson a few times.
Unless you're a professional painter.
Yes. And you are like really good with the edging.
Yep.
I'm not. And so I finally fixed it up and touched it up. And it looks so much better in there.
Good.
And I finally am not like mad every time I go in there.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That sucks when you have house projects that just every time you go in that room, you feel shame that you're not working on that house project. I just don't even want to like think about house projects in my
entire house.
Yeah.
We have about like 5 projects running at the same time.
Yeah. And it sucks.
Yeah.
So I figured I should just like focus on my office, get it up and running, like not have it make me think of what house projects I need to be doing. I can just go in there and like focus on my work.
Yeah.
So I'm very happy with it.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. All right. Should we get into the meat of this episode?
Yeah. I'm excited for this meat.
It is the meat.
It is meat.
This meat was inspired by Kylie and her episodes.
Oh.
If you haven't listened, go back and listen. Her 2 episodes came out awesome. But we had our friend Kylie Lowe on the podcast a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, she's lovely.
She is lovely.
We had a great time with her.
Yeah, she's a wonderful young woman.
Yes.
I don't know why we're speaking so formally about her. She's like one of my closest friends. But she found a skull down by the ocean in front of their house the other day, and I went over and picked it up.
Is it the one in your bathroom?
No, it's a different
one. Which I'm
one.
also going to take a picture of later and post it.
It's a different one.
Every time I go into Grace's house, there's some piece of furniture that has moved. Something different is in the office, and there's a different bone in her guest bathroom.
Carcass, if you will. Yeah, we really need a basement sink like my parents have.
Oh, that's one of our projects on our house.
Same.
We're moving the washer dryer. And I told Christopher, I was like, if we do not get a basement sink, like a wash tub sink,
yes.
I was like, we can put paintbrushes down there. And he was thinking like watercolor paintbrushes. I'm like, no. Like, because we're painting the walls.
Like house painting.
Yes. He's like, that would make more sense.
You
think?
I was
like, yeah.
He's like, I don't think we do that enough.
We don't really watercolor that much
to need a basement sink.
Not yet.
Yeah, you will once you have the basement sink.
Yeah,
the whole world opens up with that basement sink. Yeah, I feel like there's so much stuff. Yeah, paint brushes. Like,
because we always grew up, we had that big wash tub sink in our basement.
Yeah,
we had one. Yeah, you have one down in your washroom in your parents' house.
Yeah, it's great for doing bones down there because it's
bone
gross.
Stuff or just like gross stuff that you need to do. You don't want to do it in the kitchen sink.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't want to clean my bones in the kitchen sink because that's disgusting. And so my only other option is one of the bathroom sinks.
Yeah.
So that's why it happens in the bathroom. Not ideal, but Ian doesn't care. So I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
I'll be gross.
No,
then.
It's good. It's good to see what's going on in there. You
right?
know? What are you working on?
Yeah. Keep on top of the projects.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what that skull is. It might be a dog. Maybe I don't know. I found it on the side of the road and it was already bone. So I don't know what it is. I should post it in Reddit. r/what is this bone? I can always tell you.
Oh, yeah.
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 It's a great resource.
There's lovely people on Reddit.
If you ever need to ID a bone, go in r/what is this bone. But anyways, where were we? Skulls on the beach. Kylie, secondhand embarrassment. Okay,
yes.
So
rein it in. Here we go.
We got there. During Kylie's episode, we talked about things that are embarrassing for no reason. And we were talking about secondhand embarrassment. And we were kind of speculating, do AuDHDers and autistic people experience more secondhand embarrassment than neurotypicals? Because I suspect that we do. And so I'm going to do a whole episode about it.
Let's do it.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is I have some stuff about regular, just straight up traditional embarrassment.
Yep.
And then also secondhand embarrassment and kind of how it ties in with the ADHD and autism.
I'm excited.
All right. So my resources, I have this article from Wikipedia called Vicarious Embarrassment, which is kind of the official fancy title for it.
That sounds fancy.
There's also an article called The Science Behind Embarrassment from simplyneuroscience.org and another one called Extreme Embarrassment in Autism, Understanding and Coping Strategies from neurolaunch.com.
Oh.
All right. So let's start with what is secondhand embarrassment. So vicarious embarrassment, also known as secondhand embarrassment, empathetic embarrassment, third-party embarrassment, also as Spanish shame, which I've never heard that term before.
I love that.
And
is that like adjacent to Catholic guilt?
Oh,
Spanish shame.
Catholic guilt, Spanish shame. Maybe. Hadn't even thought about it. Yeah, why? I guess why.
Yeah.
Spanish shame. Or, why didn't I practice this pronunciation? From how do you say it? MDSCH altogether.
All right. Fremdschammen.
French shaman. Fremd. That's so many consonants together. That's way too many consonants. Fremdschammen. You guys know.
It's
in
German.
It's German. There's a umlaut. You get the gist. Oh, there isn't an umlaut. Is it an umlaut if it's over the A? I don't know. This isn't the time for these questions.
Yeah.
I'll look it up later.
Duolingo.
Yeah. Cue the music. Anyways, all of these, Spanish shame, whatever, is the feeling of embarrassment from observing the embarrassing actions of another person. Unlike general embarrassment, vicarious embarrassment is not the feeling of embarrassment for yourself or your own actions, but it's feeling embarrassment for someone else after witnessing the other person experience an embarrassing event. I think that's pretty simple and straightforward, but I don't know, in case anyone doesn't know what Spanish shame is, now you know. These emotions can be perceived as pro-social, and some say they can be seen as motives for following socially and culturally acceptable behavior. And I'm going to kind of talk a little bit about the difference between embarrassment and shame. But I think embarrassment can be a pro-social emotion because it kind of monitors your own behaviors and gets you to act accordingly.
Yeah, you have to have some level of embarrassment or shame, or else you're just
antisocial
and maybe narcissist.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think some embarrassment is important for like teaching us social norms.
Mm-hmm.
I think when it becomes shame, that becomes a problem because shame is so bad for you and your nervous system. But I think embarrassment is more of a temporary feeling. And I think, it's very helpful for better or worse. It is helpful for learning social rules, This article talks a little bit about like why we feel secondhand embarrassment. And then I'm going to get more into the cognitive processes of what's actually happening in the brain when that happens. But this article from Wikipedia kind of outlines 2 different psychological bases for why secondhand embarrassment happens. The first reason is empathy. Vicarious embarrassment is intrinsically linked to empathy. Empathy is the ability to understand the feelings of another and is considered a highly reinforcing emotion to promote selflessness, pro-social behavior, and group emotion, whereas a lack of empathy is related to antisocial behavior. During an embarrassing situation, the observer empathizes with the victim of embarrassment, assuming the feeling of embarrassment. People who have more empathy are more likely to be susceptible to vicarious embarrassment. And I was kind of speculating about like mirror neurons and why we do kind of take on this feeling of secondhand embarrassment. It seems like so much more intensely than other people. And that's kind of along those same lines of you're empathizing with the person who's feeling embarrassment, and it causes you to have that empathetic feeling of embarrassment in your own body because you can relate to it. But another aspect of this, so another potential psychological process happening during secondhand embarrassment is self-projection. Psychological projection is a theory in psychology and psychoanalysis in which humans defend themselves against undesirable emotions by denying their existence in themselves and attributing them to others. So projection is considered a normal and common process in everyday life. Vicarious embarrassment and other vicarious emotions, however, work in the reverse, which is a process called self-projection. The undesirable emotion is experienced in another person, and the observer projects what they interpret as the appropriate response onto themselves.
I see. Okay,
right?
okay. Okay.
So, for example, someone who lies easily might feel vicariously embarrassed if they self-project the experience of someone getting caught in a bad lie. And I think this kind of ties into why we can sometimes, as AuDHDers, we can be the harshest critics of other AuDHDers exhibiting traits that we have internalized as being embarrassing, is that secondhand embarrassment isn't just, I'm empathetic and I'm witnessing you being embarrassed and I feel bad. Sometimes it can just be that projection of embarrassment. I would feel embarrassed if I had made that social faux pas, and therefore I'm just assuming this feeling of embarrassment onto you.
Even though sometimes they're not embarrassed.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it can kind of be both of those things or one of those things, whether that empathy you're having for that person is based on reality, where you're actually witnessing them being embarrassed and you're watching them show signs of embarrassment, where their face is getting flushed and they're stumbling on their words and they're, looking all over the place. That's one form of that vicarious embarrassment. Or they're not showing these signs of embarrassment, but because you would feel super embarrassed in that situation, you're just doing the self-projection onto them, and you're maybe feeling this feeling of embarrassment for them that they're not necessarily even feeling themselves. You're just assuming. So I do feel like, to go along with my theory, I could see it as being, the people who do have the most internalized shame and who mask their traits the most maybe do have a stronger feeling of the secondhand embarrassment because you're self-projecting. You're projecting all these things are so embarrassing. I can't believe you just did that. And you're assuming that they should feel embarrassed. So I think maybe I'm just creating another theory here that I'm then going to have to talk about in another episode. But yeah, I think that goes along kind of with my theory of us having really strong mirror neurons, is that we do have, and part of that is like rejection sensitive dysphoria that I'm going to talk about. But because we do tend to have a lot of these internalized shames around our traits, we probably do feel a really strong sense of secondhand embarrassment, regardless of if the other person is actually feeling embarrassed, because we've been told that's bad, that's shameful, you shouldn't talk that loudly, you shouldn't make eye contact like that or whatever. And so, yeah, I feel like we do have a lot of these like internalized rules around how to behave and what feeling should accompany it if you're not acting in a certain way.
That makes so much sense.
Right? I think the more we can work on unmasking our own traits and not feeling embarrassed about them, maybe the less secondhand embarrassment we'll experience. It's like the less you judge other people, the less you're walking around assuming everyone is judging everyone. And so the less you'll be assuming you're being judged. Like if you grow up with a parent who's always making comments on people's physical appearance, whether good or bad, they're just like always commenting on strangers' physical appearance. You're going to grow up with this idea that everyone is walking around judging everyone's physical appearance. So you kind of internalize this voice of judgment. So the more we can work on not feeling embarrassed about our own actions and not feeling like other people should be embarrassed by their actions, I think just the less embarrassment we'll feel. And isn't that nice?
That is nice. That's a hard habit to break, though, especially if that's years of unlearning to do and like deep internal analysis of your own behavior and your own upbringing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. It's not like an easy fix.
Right.
But I think a way to kind of work on this step by step is to work on whether it's through exposure therapy, like people will do like embarrassment or rejection exposure therapy,
oh my God,
where they'll put themselves,
like my nightmare.
Right? They'll put themselves in situations knowing that they'll be rejected so that they can prove to themselves, you're not going to die. It's not going to be the end of the world. You can handle it.
You might.
You could die.
You might feel like it.
No. But it's that same concept of the more you experience it and you don't have these terrible side effects, the more you can kind of convince yourself that you can manage it. And I think I've talked about that before, where maybe it was in terms of like our fear of failure, but we're not necessarily just scared of failing. We're scared of not having the emotional regulation to handle whatever emotions come with it. You know, we're not scared necessarily of the primary thing happening of being embarrassed. We're scared we won't have the emotional fortitude to like manage those feelings if we are in an embarrassing situation. So I think we just kind of like build it up in our heads of this is going to be so terrible and I'll collapse and I won't be able to recover.
Yes.
And so if we can kind of, right? So
oh my God.
We can kind of do some exposure therapy of doing maybe like slightly embarrassing things in public, and then we can show ourselves everyone isn't going to stop and point and laugh at you and you're not going to die. Your nervous system and brain will be like reinforced by that. But that takes time. So it's just something to work on slowly, you know?
I hate being embarrassed.
I do too.
This whole conversation makes me uncomfortable because I don't like being embarrassed.
Oh, I don't either. I hate it.
I don't think anybody enjoys it.
I think some people out there maybe get off on it like a
some sort of
shame
like
kink. Yeah. If you have a shame kink, let us know.
Let us know.
Where's the feather, gmail.com.
Yeah. Do you need someone to shame you?
Yeah.
We could do that.
And is that better, I guess, like than feeling shame? Like what if you just leaned into it and you're like, you know what? This turns me on. I like it. More please. Like could you trick your brain?
But then you're going to be, if you're like me and you're like perpetually embarrassed.
Yeah.
You're going to be always turned on.
I mean, so what? Isn't that better than always being embarrassed?
That's true.
Would you rather be horny or embarrassed?
Oh, I don't know. I don't think I want to be.
Or horny from embarrassment? None.
Negative. None. Yeah,
None of
those are all bad options. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I'm very curious about how that shame kink happens because, like, I don't know, what a blessing in disguise, I think, maybe? Because you don't feel shame.
Well,
Or you like it.
You like it.
Yeah.
Right?
So it's not.
But you must feel shame if you have a shame kink, right?
I think you feel shame and you like the feeling of shame.
But it must be like, I wonder if it's like a particular shame around something.
I think there's a lot of
nuance. The
nuance
science behind kinks in general is just kind of fascinating.
You know that most foot fetishes are formed as children because you spend so much time around feet as a little kid.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Most kinks are formed in childhood.
That makes sense to me.
Just this weird connection that gets made. Like shame. I'm sure a person who has a shame kink probably feels shame in a similar way, but something in the brain happened where it connected that feeling of shame with
Freudian.
Getting turned on, right? Yeah. Maybe one day we could do a bonus content episode about different kinks because I am fascinated by them and how they form.
Yeah.
Because like why?
Why?
There's so many people out there with a foot fetish.
There's so many
why?
kinks. Oh, it's the number one it's the most profitable type of kink on the internet right now. Is the foot.
Most people got feet.
I know. I always tell Christopher he should be on Foot Finder. He's got cute little toes.
Does he?
Yeah, I think he's got great toes. And
Christopher,
and
get those piggies out there.
I know. I think people would pay top dollar.
Profit. I feel like it's one of the only things that you could show off on your own body and profit from that wouldn't necessarily feel super violating, you know?
Yeah.
Like if you're like selling pictures of your tits to men on the internet, that would feel disgusting. But like your feet, it's like, I don't have a sexual connection to those. So you can kind of like distance yourself from the sexual aspect of it, maybe.
Yeah. But at the same time, if you want to sell pictures of yourself of any body part for money, go for it.
Yeah.
If you want.
I just think keep that in mind. The emotional aspect is what a lot of sex workers say.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That there's this obviously a big emotional aspect to it where you are selling pictures of yourself.
Oh, for sure.
Men. So I don't think it's quite as easy as like, just take pictures and whatever you do. You. Like, I think it is important to keep in mind that there definitely is, like, it is sex work, you know? I think it's been watered down because of OnlyFans and the internet. But at the end of the day, it is sex work. So, I don't know, keep that in mind. Anyway, all right.
Christopher, think about it.
Think about it. Might be a good way to make a little extra dough.
Yeah. So,
right. What is happening in the brain during embarrassment?
That's a good question.
Right? All right. So, in a study conducted in Germany, neural substrates were monitored while the subjects of the experiment put on a karaoke performance without background music. Can you fucking imagine? First of all,
no.
Nah.
First of all, karaoke in general is something that I just cannot do. I've done it once. I was forced.
Only once?
I was forced into it
What'd
by
you
my
sing?
boss. Not Ted. This was a different job.
Oh.
I was the only sober person there.
Oh, what a nightmare.
And I did make them play Britney Spears, but it was awful. It was my nightmare. I don't sing well. Singing is just not a thing that I do. And to get up and sing in front of people sounds like I'd rather eat glass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you up there by yourself?
No, I was up there with a group, but I was still like surrounded by intoxicated people that I work with.
Yeah.
So it's just like, you know.
That's tough.
And they're like right next to me singing and they're like, oh, I love Britney Spears. And I'm like, I want to die. I want to die.
That sounds so bad. Would you rather do karaoke like that in front of your coworkers or dance in front of your coworkers?
A dance.
Would you?
Yeah,
I'd rather do karaoke any day.
I'm all about dancing. I get years of dancing under my belt.
That's true. You are a dancer.
I'm a dancer.
I am so far from a dancer.
Well, that's why we're in the business together. If you do all the singing, I'll do all the dancing.
Right.
We'll make a group.
We got a show, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Dancing in front of a bunch of people is my nightmare. Karaoke, yeah, I've done it a few times, always with a group, always when I'm drunk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just not. Like Christopher always asks to go karaoke. And I'm like, it's just like one of those things that I just feel so uncomfortable with.
Yeah, unless I'm very drunk. And then I can do it. But that's tough. And the songs I always want to sing are like way out of my range. Like I'm not going to do a Celine song, although I wish.
Could. You could.
I could. I don't think people would like it, but I could do it.
I'll support you no matter what.
Lily and I used to have one of those little karaoke machines.
Aww.
Loved that. Do you ever have one of those?
No. My mom didn't like it when we sang. For a reason. Shut that off.
Yeah.
We actually didn't really have a lot of like musical. I don't know if we were just never taught or.
Yeah, you weren't a very musical family.
We weren't a musical. I remember the day I was like, can I play trombone? My parents were like,
we've been dreading this day.
Because Nick played the viola and they're like, this is acceptable.
Trombone is tough.
Trombone, I picked trombone because it was the cheapest and my parents weren't like pro music. It's not that they were anti music. They just like didn't. They like never, unless we were in the car, we like never listened to music, you know?
Yeah.
Which is weird because I do love music quite a bit.
You do.
And I don't think it's not that like my parents aren't musical people. Like they used to have lots of records, but I think they just get overstimulated.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we weren't like really raised musical at all. Like fiddle camp's not in the option.
Yeah, no fiddle
camp
for you.
Convinced them. since the trombone was the cheapest out of all of it, because remember everybody did saxophone and that was really expensive.
I did trumpet.
You did. That was also very expensive because I looked at the prices. Yeah. And it was either flute or trombone. And why the fuck did I not pick flute?
I know.
And I remember the trombone was too big for me and I couldn't reach the last note.
It's a big instrument.
Always flat because I couldn't reach the last note and I got in trouble. And then I was also convinced that my instructor was taking drugs in front of me.
Oh, that's
but it was
right.
just his heart medication. Yeah, we already talked about it.
Yeah.
So,
Reported him to the authorities.
Yeah. As in my mom who didn't believe me.
Yeah.
Could you imagine?
As she shouldn't.
Because if you went to your mom and said, my trombone instructor is taking drugs in front of me, she would have believed you.
Oh, yeah. She'd be calling the guidance counselor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My mom's like, you're a fucking liar.
That is not happening.
There's no way.
Slanderous.
Yeah.
True. And she was right.
She was right.
She was
I
correct.
shouldn't be believed, but it's funny that our parents we were just raised differently.
Very differently.
My mom never trusted me.
No.
I wasn't even a bad kid. She was
not at all. I was so much worse than you.
Right,
I was a little liar.
Right.
You never lied.
I never lied. I'm really bad at it.
You interpreted things incorrectly, but you didn't lie.
She just assumed that I was wrong 100% of the time. Oh, your teacher's taking drugs in front of you?
Go to your room.
Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah, back to karaoke.
Sorry.
Don't be sorry. This is what this podcast is all about, is these side shoots. All right. So you're doing karaoke in this experiment without background music.
Oh my God.
As if it couldn't get bad enough.
I don't even think I could get up there. I would just die.
I'd be like whispering. I would do the It's Always Sunny gag that Dee does, where she gets on stage and does the All right. When the subjects were given feedback, whether positive or negative,
oh no,
the anterior.
Could you imagine getting negative feedback
on your karaoke performance
without background music?
In front of this room full of people.
I hate it.
How do you go on? Can't imagine.
No, it was just, oh God.
All right. So when they were given feedback, whether positive or negative, the anterior insula region of the brain was active. So the anterior insula is responsible for feelings of trust, disbelief, love, or resentment.
That's a lot.
That's a lot of
responsible.
A lot of big stuff going on. Trusting someone's feedback can cause you to internalize those feelings of pride due to positive feedback or embarrassment due to negative feedback.
Okay, now it's all making sense.
Right?
Okay. Yeah.
So it can either be a good thing or a bad thing. And part of it, like it says, trusting someone's feedback can cause you to internalize it. So part of it is you do have to trust. So I think there are people out there who aren't affected by negative feedback because they don't really put stock into what other people say, which, like, I don't know how you disconnect that in your brain, but, like, wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah.
Like, there are some people who celebrities, like, to be a celebrity, you have to be willing to be absolutely despised.
Right. Because some people will they get torn apart.
Right? By the public, by, like, casting directors, by
I don't know how actors make it, because you have to, like, get up, you have to perform.
Yep.
And then you'll just have someone point blank say, you're terrible.
Yeah, no. And you just are like, I don't believe you. I'm going to keep going.
I'm going to keep going. I don't know
and
how
you don't
do
like
it.
Give up
Something's
and become a
wrong.
dentist.
I feel like that you have to be like you have to have some sort of like something's wrong in your brain for you to keep going. You know, something's missing.
Yes, yeah. You have something missing, which is good.
Which I guess is good for For I don't know.
Like, isn't that nice? Imagine if you just didn't put any stock into what people said about you. I wish. That'd be nice.
I care a lot.
I care too much. So the anterior insula is connected also to the amygdala, which, as we know, is the angry neighbor, which is where the emotional center of the brain is.
I see.
So when you think about autism and ADHD, we do have those bigger amygdalas and smaller prefrontal cortexes, because prefrontal cortex is the long-term planning, executive functioning, whereas the amygdala is the emotional center. And so when you are getting feedback, positive or negative, it's going to that anterior insula, and then that is connected to the amygdala. So it's all wrapped up in your emotions. This is responsible for the pain empathy people experience, is because you're having that anterior insula activated, and then it's activating your amygdala. So when you're watching someone else be embarrassed, it's triggering that, like, pain empathy, as they're calling it, in your amygdala.
Okay. Is this why here's another thing that's not really related to embarrassment, but like in like horror movies, I have a hard time watching people get hurt, even though like I work in medicine, I see people get hurt all the time. But watching it on a TV show is really difficult for me.
Yeah.
Is that similar, you think? A similar pathway in the brain?
I do think. I do think it's similar. And my dad is the same way. He, he's a 70-year-old man. He will not watch any type of show or movie that's like about war, about violence. Like he can't do it.
It's hard for me, and I deal with people who are in pain all the time.
Yeah.
But I cannot watch it in a TV show.
Is it like watching them go through the initial pain is difficult for you? Like if you watch someone in real life get injured, would it have the same effect?
I mean, it would, but not to that extreme, because I think when I see someone in pain in real life, I kind of go into that mode of like, okay, how can we help this? Yeah, problem solving mode. So
maybe it's like part of the helplessness.
Yeah, I guess just like you're just literally an audience member to this whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, kind of like torturous.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, I do think it's kind of a pretty similar concept where you're feeling a lot of that like empathetic pain in your amygdala.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good connection. All right, so further results of this German torture karaoke study show that there is a higher activity in the medial prefrontal cortex when people are reviewed in front of an audience. Oh, God. The medial prefrontal cortex is responsible for habit formation and long-term memories.
Oh, yeah. I'd remember that forever.
Right?
It would haunt me every single day of my life, that whole experience.
Yeah.
Karaoke with no background music. Yeah.
Right?
I would. Yeah. If I didn't die that day, I would think about it every day.
Yeah.
And I would want to die.
Yeah. Like, please put me out of my misery.
Yeah.
I know. And I think, once again, we're not necessarily even just fearful of being embarrassed in the moment. We're like fearful of knowing that we would have to think about that for the rest of our lives. It's not even just the moment. I don't want something embarrassing to happen to me because I know I'll never forget it. And I don't want to have that pain living in my brain.
Right. I hate it.
And it's interesting that as ADHDers, we have smaller prefrontal cortexes than non-ADHDers. And yet it seems like, because that, like I just said, that's where habit formation is and long-term memories are, I think, taken into storage there. It's interesting that we have smaller prefrontal cortexes, and yet it seems like those memories really live very concretely in our brains. It's like we have smaller prefrontal cortexes, but the information that is being held there is being held maybe very intensely under a spotlight. So like the stuff, and I feel like that with my own brain, the stuff that sticks really, really, really sticks.
Like you can't get it to unstick.
Yes. And I don't really have much control about what it is.
3 a.m.
Yeah. Like, I can't believe I did that. My biggest secondhand embarrassment memory, I think I've talked about this before, is Mo tripping up the stairs our freshman year of high school, first day, freshman year of high school, tripped up the main stairs and pretended she was tying her shoe. It was just like out of a Disney Channel original movie of tripping up the stairs your first day of high school. And that wasn't even me. Yeah, poor Mo. All right, another experiment conducted at the University of California, San Francisco had participants watch back a karaoke performance of theirs.
Oh,
I don't know if it's worse to do it or to have to watch it back.
Guys, we got to stop with the karaoke. It's killing me.
Well, that's why they chose it. It's like the number one way to embarrass someone is to make them do...
Why do people do that on purpose?
For this study, so they can study them. Some people like it. I guess if you're a good singer, like if you're a good singer,
sure.
Wouldn't you like karaoke? You think?
Yeah.
Yeah. But you're not, and you don't.
And I don't.
I'm not either, and I don't.
No.
So they were talking about this other area. Fuck, how do I say this? The
pregenual.
Think?
That's what I'm going with. The pregenual anterior cingulate cortex.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's that.
That one.
Yeah. You got it. So that was activated when people had to view their karaoke performances back, which is responsible for impulse control and emotional regulation. And it pushes people to make decisions based on what will allow them to obtain a social reward.
Shut it off.
Yeah. Shut it down. It is also responsible for making people feel sweat, an increased heartbeat, and unregulated breathing when they do not obtain this social reward and instead receive a negative evaluation from their peers. So that's what's happening in the say it again? Pregenual anterior cingulate cortex. There's so much going on in the brain.
There's so many things in the brain.
Yep. So that's being activated when you are feeling that embarrassment in front of people, on top of like all those other emotional responses. You're also having this feeling of sweatiness and increased heartbeat and unregulated breathing being
You're
activated.
really just going into like a fight or flight response.
Yeah,
really.
Truly.
Yeah.
And it makes sense why that lives so strongly in your brain and body. And then it is brought up again and again whenever you're feeling that embarrassment or secondhand embarrassment for someone else. It's like triggering those same responses in the body.
I hate it.
Right?
I'm like going through a fight or flight response just talking about it.
You do feel you seem uncomfortable.
I'm uncomfortable talking about this.
Good. I'm having a great time.
I'm glad you are.
I think I'm discovering a shame kink in myself right now.
I know.
It's great. Lean into it, you know? Bring it on.
I won't.
No, I'm just kidding. I'll feel a lot of shame about this later. All right, so that kind of brings us to, do autistic and ADHD people experience firsthand and secondhand embarrassment more intensely than neurotypicals? We've kind of already started to cover this, but I'm going to go a little deeper into it.
Yeah, let's do it.
People with social anxiety disorder tend to have an increase in amygdala activity, which is the emotional center, and a decrease in medial prefrontal cortex activity due to avoiding situations in which they receive any sort of feedback or judgment in front of an audience. This may lead to impaired judgment in understanding how people in social situations may be reacting to them, making it seem daunting to interact with others. So that kind of ties into that idea that we have this really strong feeling of embarrassment when we do experience it, and then kind of because of like almost like RSD, rejection sensitive dysphoria, where we create this feedback loop of we took this judgment so harshly and internalized it so much and had such a big reaction in our amygdalas to it that we kind of just shut everything down, and we don't allow any room for nuance of like not like jumping to 1,000 when it comes to feeling embarrassed. Like not everything is going to be super shameful and embarrassing, but if you do kind of have that amygdala activated during embarrassment, you're going to kind of have this big reaction to it, and then you're going to avoid it, and it just creates this feedback loop of now you're scared to be embarrassed, so you avoid socializing, and then you're not really getting any positive feedback of, hey, I did that thing and I didn't get super embarrassed and I didn't feel shame. Maybe it's not super terrible. So you just create this situation where it is like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Right.
Where you assume you're going to be embarrassed. Yeah. And then your social skills go down. And then when you do socialize, you are more embarrassed because you haven't been practicing.
Right.
And so then you avoid it even more.
So do you think this is with people who are neurodivergent and kind of have more supports in like the social intelligence aspect, on that like pie chart that they have, and you have like one for like social awareness?
Yeah.
Do you think that they would feel more secondhand embarrassment due to the fact that they don't kind of like detect social cues as much?
See, that's a good question because, and I'm going to talk in a second about like why autistic people especially just experience more embarrassment in general, because there's a lot more stuff that we're missing than other people. But also, yeah, it's like on one hand, you're missing social stuff. And so you end up committing these social faux pas more often because you're not as aware of the social rules. And so then you feel more embarrassment in that sense. But, it's the whole like you can't feel embarrassed if you're not embarrassed. Like on the other hand, if you're not aware of all these social cues that you're missing, you don't necessarily know to be embarrassed by it.
Right.
So it's like, yeah, does higher social intelligence help you decrease the embarrassment, or does it increase the embarrassment because you're more aware of causing these social problems?
Huh.
I don't know.
We need like a line graph of like social intelligence versus level of embarrassment.
Yeah. I think you'd want to kind of meet in the middle,
Right. I almost think it would be like a bell curve, right?
Yeah.
Because if you have low social, I don't want to call it intelligence, but awareness, your embarrassment must be low. And then it gets to like a peak of like, social intelligence versus embarrassment. And then it should go down.
Yeah.
This is my theory. It's a parabola.
Yeah.
If anything.
Yeah.
Or bell curve.
I think you're onto something. Yeah, because like
that's my hypothesis.
There must be a point in someone's social awareness development where you're right on the cusp of being able to follow the rules, but you don't quite know how yet. So like I think there's a point where, okay, I'm really aware that I'm messing something up socially and I feel embarrassed about it, but I don't have enough social intelligence to like know how to fix it or how to not cause these blunders.
Right.
So I bet that's kind of like the sweet spot for feeling a lot of social embarrassment.
Yes.
So you'd rather be like on the lower end or on the much higher end.
Mm-hmm.
I want to either be smart enough to avoid the social faux pas, or I want to have so little awareness that I don't even know I'm committing them, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah.
I think we're
Like
right
you
at
in
the
middle
peak of-
school.
yeah.
Yeah. Just totally blissfully unaware.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, what a life.
Right? Kind of nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we're kind of stuck right there in the middle.
Yeah, I think we are too.
I know I'm doing stuff wrong. I just don't even always know how to avoid it or fix it.
Yeah, I don't know
not
how
make it
I don't know
happen.
how to like get out of it.
So
yeah.
I'm just going to keep doing it. Yeah. So there's,
Dang it.
Yeah. And I think, because there are non-AuDHDers who also experience social anxiety. So I'm not saying like it's only autistic and ADHD people who experience this,
Mhm.
but I do think that the more social anxiety you have, obviously, the more embarrassment you're going to feel.
Yeah,
Because you're just
that makes
more
sense.
sensitive to people's reactions to you.
Yeah.
All right. From another article titled Extreme Embarrassment in Autism, Understanding and Coping Strategies. This just talks a little bit about like why autistic people experience more firsthand embarrassment than others. And you can assume that the more firsthand embarrassment someone experiences, the more secondhand embarrassment they're also going to experience because they think that so many different things are embarrassing. They're also going to have that similar reaction when you see someone else doing this embarrassing thing. We have a lot more social misunderstandings. We struggle to interpret social cues. We struggle to understand unwritten social rules. We might say stuff that we don't realize how it comes across, or people interpret it wrong. So that just leads us to committing a lot of unintentional social faux pas, or like having misinterpretations of other people's intentions. And also we do have like more sensory sensitivities. And so that can lead to a lot more embarrassing situations where you're either having like a meltdown because you're overstimulated, or something like startles you really suddenly and you have this like kind of big exaggerated response to it. Neurotypicals are just so judgmental about so many things that I feel like there's so many different ways we can embarrass ourselves
Right.
that like shouldn't be embarrassing. And like having sensory needs and having like these sensitivities that can be embarrassing, or
Right. Like the flapping
hand flapping, or
in
like
public. Like
Yep.
you need to do it if you need to do it. But then it's like
Exactly.
kind of embarrassing because it's like a social faux pas.
Yep.
But like who made that up?
Exactly.
Who's saying that that's a social faux pas? Flap away.
Yeah, I say flap to your heart's content. It's so
Mhm.
important to regulate yourself. But like I also get the embarrassment of it, like for me clearing my throat in public, I know it's annoying and it drives me crazy and I feel very like self-conscious about it. But at the end of the day, I have to do it sometimes. So, or like kids who have trouble with tying their shoes and they have to wear Velcro shoes. And then that's embarrassing because you're like at a certain age and you still have Velcro shoes. Or me, I didn't want to wear hard pants, which is then you kind of feel like a baby because I hit 6th grade and I didn't want to wear jeans.
Yeah.
Like, that's what you wear in 6th grade. You don't wear leggings. So I feel like those sensory sensitivities alone can lead us to having these like maybe embarrassing needs, quote unquote.
But that also goes back to what you were saying about the like social awareness, social intelligence, because you may have people who are like, I'm not wearing hard pants and you can't make me.
Exactly. And I don't give a shit.
And they don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah.
If you were like, I don't give a shit about what others think, I'm not wearing hard pants.
Right.
Like I remember in 6th grade, my brother told me, he's like, we have to have a conversation. And I had like these they were like lavender colored jeans, and they weren't even like cool bell bottoms. They were just like kind of like mom jeans before mom jeans were cool.
Yeah.
And I think we got them at a thrift store. I don't know where we got them, but I really liked them because they were purple. And my brother's like, your jeans are not cool and you shouldn't wear them. And I was like, well, I think he was doing it. I think it was like the only act of brotherly love
to save you
Mhm.
socially.
He must have like overheard someone making fun of me in my jeans. And he was like, that's what I think. I would like to think either that or he just really hated those jeans.
Yeah. He's like, fuck those
Fuck
jeans.
those
Yeah.
jeans. And he was like, you shouldn't wear those because they're not cool. And I was like, oh shoot, I wasn't even aware of this like social faux pas that I made.
Yeah.
So then I didn't wear them again.
Oh,
I know.
that's so sad.
Couple jeans.
Yeah, like how many things were we embarrassed out of doing that were just like, why was that embarrassing?
Right.
You know? But I also get it when you're a kid,
When you're trying to survive.
And if you're neurodivergent, you already stand out.
Right.
And so you just want to kind of fit in and survive socially. It's like, I get it, but it just sucks that all of us internalize so much shame just from doing like regular human things as we grow up. Stupid. Another problem for autistic people especially is that delayed emotional response. And I feel like we do have that with like you're socializing and you think it's going well and you're like, I'm having a good time. And then later that night when you're laying in bed, all you can think about is
you're like
replaying the convo, or maybe you do have this sudden feeling of embarrassment that hits like hours and hours or
maybe
days
I
later.
Have said that.
Yeah.
Because maybe I did raise my voice too much.
Yeah. Because we do have that delayed emotional response. So I think another thing that can cause us embarrassment is maybe doing something that we didn't even realize was embarrassing in the moment. And then hours or days later, we're like, oh my God, was that really embarrassing?
Right.
And like that can cause
Did I say something wrong?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And talk about like a very specific type of shame where then you feel like you have to monitor yourself and you have to, every time you get home from a social interaction, now you have to go through the whole thing and check yourself and make sure that you didn't do anything embarrassing. I just think it leads to so much like self-policing, which sucks. Oh, and then that logic loop too kind of goes along with that, where we just perseverate on these things and we can't like move on from it. And so it's kind of like we're just re-traumatizing ourselves over and over because the brain doesn't know the difference between imagination and reality. So you're reliving this embarrassing experience every night for 5 years. Your brain's like, we just spent 5 years in the fucking trenches going through the most embarrassing thing every night of our lives.
Every single night.
Yeah. So I think because the autistic brain especially does get stuck on those thoughts, it just kind of creates this loop over and over and over.
I hate that.
Right?
Yes.
So this all makes sense.
It all makes sense.
It all comes together.
And there's nothing we can do about it.
Well, there's some stuff we can do about it. It's, just like I said, working on not judging people so much when you see them doing something that you might have thought was embarrassing once upon a time, like the less you can judge other people. Because it's a lot harder to not judge ourselves. We're always our harshest critics. And so if you can work on not judging others when you think they're doing something embarrassing, that will slowly, eventually, hopefully translate into you being a less judgmental critic of yourself. But I think
that makes sense.
Right? I think stopping it with other people is a good starter because we have less emotion tied to this thing. Whereas I'm not just going to say, I'm just going to stop feeling embarrassed.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Yeah.
Your nervous system would like to have a word with you because how?
It ain't happening.
Yeah. So I think starting with like removing that little police man from your head.
Yeah, I'm going to stop being depressed.
Yep. Boom.
Just not happening.
Have you thought about just being happy?
Yeah.
You ever consider that, huh? You haven't.
Have you not care so much about it?
Yep.
Yeah. Try it.
Yeah, just try it out. I'm just going to kind of gloss over this, but this article also talks about like embarrassment is being more of a situational and temporary feeling, but shame is kind of when it takes a hold and becomes this like deeper and longer lasting emotion. And that does have a much bigger effect on someone's self-perception and their mental health. So I do feel like for us, we tend to kind of internalize that embarrassment as shame. I think we just like tend to feel a lot more shame because there's a lot more stuff we've been told we need to feel shame about.
Right.
So I think that also kind of becomes the brain's automatic process of like, oh yeah, you should feel shame about this. And here you go. Now it's logged in your brain forever. You're never not going to feel shame about it.
Mm-hmm. But you're going to keep doing it because of who you are.
Yeah. You're not going to learn enough to change.
Yeah. You're not going to change and avoid it, but you're going to feel a lot of shame about it.
Yeah. It's wrong. You just can't stop doing it.
Yeah.
And that's a fun spot to be in.
Yeah. That's nice.
That is nice. Yeah. And then the last little bit I had is just about that rejection sensitive dysphoria, which is really like an ADHD specific thing.
Yeah.
In the brain, in the ADHD brain, it causes a similar brain activity to feeling pain. And because
I remember you talking about that last time.
Yeah. And because ADHDers, we struggle with like regulating our internal communication and our internal emotions, we just have a lot harder of a time regulating that embarrassment or regulating that pain. And it becomes like a big deal in our brains. Yeah. So I think that kind of all ties together with why we do experience secondhand embarrassment more. And it seems like more intensely than other people.
It makes sense.
Right?
It makes sense in my brain.
Yeah, it makes sense in my brain
I'm
as
having
well.
secondhand embarrassment right now.
Are you?
Yeah.
I'm having third-hand embarrassment about your second-hand embarrassment. I'm feeling embarrassed that you're embarrassed about embarrassment.
It's just like, I don't even think it's embarrassment. It's just like, I feel like it's just bringing up feelings of like times I was embarrassed and now I've got to like run through the whole emotional gamut again.
Yeah.
So that's fun.
And like the ultimate intervention would be to remove
Yourself from society.
Yeah, to just kind of
just
leave.
Yeah.
Just walk into the woods one day and just disappear forever.
Yeah.
But if you can't do that, like really removing that emotional connection from your brain and body, which involves like somatic therapy, I think would be the most helpful.
Deep breathing.
Yeah.
Some Wim Hof.
Not even. It's more about like tapping, unfortunately.
Oh, it all comes back to tapping.
Because, they say that an emotion only lives in your body for 90 seconds. If you process it, it only will be plaguing you for 90 seconds if you're able to like process it in the moment and remove it from your body. Most of us do not do that when we feel emotions. We kind of just bury them deep inside.
Yeah.
And so every emotion we've ever felt, if we haven't removed it, just lives in our bodies. And so if we can kind of like break that connection or work with a somatic therapist to bring up these moments of embarrassment, and like it sucks, but you have to face them and remove that emotional reaction to it. I think that's kind of the only way to get rid of it, unfortunately.
I hate that.
Face it. I know.
Just to face it.
Yeah.
Face the music.
Yeah. And it sucks.
Face the karaoke.
Yeah. And it sucks, but think of how much better you would feel if you didn't have that in you. And then also things like psychedelics. They talk about shrooms being like a fresh snowfall on these neural connections that your brain has always made, where you associate this thought with this feeling. And the more you think it, the more your brain creates these tracks in the snow. And taking psychedelics is like a fresh snowfall to give you a chance to like create new thoughts and new connections. So I don't know, try ketamine maybe. If you feel a lot of embarrassment, try ketamine. Yeah,
you heard it here first.
Yes.
Ketamine for embarrassment.
Yeah, the cure for embarrassment is ketamine. Yeah. But yeah, really, I guess it's just releasing your own internal shame and releasing your judgment of others. And then hopefully you won't feel as bad about when you do weird stuff, and you won't feel as bad when you see someone else doing weird stuff,
Yeah. No, this was lovely.
Yeah.
This was lovely to talk about, as painful as it was.
Right? I feel like it's helpful to be aware of.
Yeah, to like kind of contextualize it and to kind of like put it into writing and now on the air.
Right? I also think this kind of ties into why we as a society are so cruel and harsh about people doing embarrassing things, like on TikTok, for example. If there's a clip of someone who did something super embarrassing in public and people are like so brutal about it, I think a big part of it is, I'm so glad that's not me.
Yeah.
Let's all enjoy in heckling this person who did something embarrassing because it's not me, and isn't that such a good feeling?
There are people who are sharing things on TikTok that, for me personally, I would take to my grave.
Right? Yes. Oh my God. The story is about people like shitting their pants and stuff. It's like, why would you share that?
On the internet?
Yep.
For everybody to see.
But they don't care.
Which I think is great.
Yes.
And maybe it's like cathartic, kind of like our pizza secrets is very cathartic to like get that out.
Yeah.
So maybe that's how I'm thinking of it now. Maybe they just need to get this out to like the entire world.
Yeah.
But like,
I think it's like that exposure therapy. You put your most embarrassing thing out there, and you didn't die,
Right. But like, man, some of these people, I'm like, I wouldn't be me.
The girl who talked about getting an IUD inserted and she immediately started pooping all over the table. It's like, how did you tell that story? I'm glad she did, because I feel like that's good information for people to know that could happen. But like,
didn't know that could happen.
No, me either.
And now I'm gonna be afraid for my next one. But
you know what? If it happens, it's happened before. This girl talked about it online and survived it, so you can too. Yeah. Isn't that inspiring?
Oh my God.
And maybe that's part of what it is too, is looking at these people who are doing something embarrassing or talking about something embarrassing that you're like, oh my God, I can't believe that. That's so embarrassing. And you see them just laughing about it or being totally fine.
Crazy that she's like laughing about it. Like, oh my gosh, so embarrassing, right? And you're like,
But I think catching ourselves in those moments instead of having that reaction of like, oh my God, that's so embarrassing, kind of leaning into like, well, she doesn't feel embarrassed, so why am I feeling more embarrassment than she is? And I feel like that can be helpful the more you can watch and acknowledge that other people have gone through much more embarrassing stuff than you and they seem totally fine.
Mm-hmm.
So like, why not me, you know?
I guess so.
Right?
I guess so.
Yeah.
Just
kind
like
of
you
inspiring.
said, you can't be embarrassed if you're not embarrassed.
Yeah.
Poof.
It's a tough road.
It's a tough.
I'm not going to pretend like it's just a easy peasy thing to do overnight.
Right.
But
right.
I don't know. I'm hopeful.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like as you get older too, you care less.
Yeah.
And that's nice.
Time heals all wounds.
I can't wait to be a super embarrassing old woman.
We're going to be great old ladies.
Yeah.
If we make it. You
yeah.
know?
If the world's still here.
Yeah.
I think we'll be
I'm
just
excited
fine.
to be an old lady.
Yeah.
You get old lady hobbies and
We've already got old lady
I
hobbies.
know,
We're halfway
got
there.
plenty of old lady hobbies, but like, you know, you just hanging out, saying things, farting, talking about your next doctor's appointment.
Yeah.
That's at least what my grandma does.
Stealing batteries.
Yeah.
Whatever.
What?
It's I think it's on Seinfeld. No, I know it's on Seinfeld, where Uncle Leo steals stuff because he's old. And so if he gets caught, like he says, all old people steal. Because you can just, I didn't know what I'm doing. Where am I? You know, you can kind of just pull that line. So
oh, no.
Uncle Leo says that a lot of old people steal because you have an easy way out. So there's something to look forward to.
That's fair,
you
yeah.
know? We're like,
Crime.
How'd I get here?
Oh, where's my grandson?
All right. Well, this is my episode about secondhand embarrassment.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
This was lovely.
Thanks for
in a painful way.
sitting through it. Yeah.
Yeah.
We made it. We did it.
Yeah.
We survived.
We did.
Yeah. If you have any thoughts on how to kind of overcome firsthand or secondhand embarrassment, reach out to us and let us know. Because
do you have an embarrassing story you want to tell?
Yeah.
Reach out to us. Weezer Feather.
Yeah. It's kind of like
gmail.com.
Kind of piece of secrets. You can call it a piece of secret and we'll read it.
We'll read it.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Or if you have more things to add to our alternative segment, things that are embarrassing for no reason, there's another one.
Yeah. I'm going to do another poll. What's a thing that's embarrassing for no reason?
Yeah. Yeah. Those are always fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let us know. You can follow us on all the socials. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok. Check out our Patreon. I'm doing some bonus content about the TV I'm watching right now.
Woo!
Yeah, you can hear me talk about my favorite AuDHD characters. And you can visit our website, check out our merch. Yeah, you guys know where to find us. All right, Kristen, are you ready to get into our bod?
I want your bod.
Nice bod.
I'm so ready.
This bod was brought to us by our friend and listener and former guest, Jamie.
Oh, yay!
Jamie sent us a bird with a wonderful name called the fluffy-backed tit babbler.
I love this.
And
who's naming these
did
birds?
I find a bunch of porn when I looked this up? I sure did.
Did you really?
I did. Yep. But
what does that even look? What?
You don't want to know.
I don't. But I'm a little interested. Like,
it's just the word tit. You know, brings up a lot of stuff.
So yeah. Tit babbler though.
Yeah, but kind of amongst the porn, I was able to find some interesting facts about the fluffy back tit babbler.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's found in Brunei, Indonesia, Malaysia, and Thailand.
All right.
And its natural habitats are subtropical or tropical moist lowland forest and subtropical or tropical swampland.
All right. It likes the humidity.
Yep. And it is threatened by habitat loss.
Womp,
womp, womp. But yeah, it's a cute little bird.
What does it look like?
I don't know. Just like a guy.
Well, now I need to see.
Well, you're going to have to play the sound on there anyway. So,
okay.
Yeah, they're kind of like, they have these like kind of greenish, yellowish feathers. And then they have these like cool blue markings around their eyes. Oh,
yeah. They've got great eyeshadow.
Right? Yeah, they're cute.
Yeah, they're cute.
Yeah. All right.
Here we go.
Do that bird call.
This video is calling it a handsome and attractive bird, which, whoa.
Calm down.
Stop. Stop.
Yeah, stop coming onto the birds.
Yeah. With a chestnut crown, a jet black throat, and electric blue skin patches on the face and neck. We're calling that eyeshadow.
It's a good description. Yeah.
Anyway.
That's pretty good. You're going a little too old woman, I think.
I know. I'm like a haunted woman.
Yeah.
That was really good.
Right?
No, I'm still an old woman.
No, you still sound
still...
like you've fallen and you can't get up.
I can't. I have.
I think you got to go a little more rounded.
I'm still...
It was better.
Better.
Less old womanish.
Yeah.
I think I nailed it. I feel
I think
really
you got
proud
that
and
one.
confident.
Yeah, you got there.
I got there.
I'm proud of you. You're really coming along with these bird calls.
You know what? I'm getting there.
Yeah.
I'm getting
You're
there.
pro.
Okay, see ya.
Bye.